Hey guys, as you can see us all, now I think you can hear us at least. We're waiting for a few people to get in. Micah here with Eric, Ken, young Jacob over there, far right of the screen.
Within the sunflowers.
Staying healthy.
Yeah.
We got flowers for your happiness, hand sanitizer. Feel free to grab some if you even need some to watch this live feed. But so glad to be with you. Obviously, we wish that we could be here, be actually in the Art Center dry room, just having this after our regular scheduled service. Wanted to be able to update you guys on some things, answer your questions. Thank you guys for beginning to post some of those. Feel free to comment on the side. Jacob's going to kind of be moderating that in a few minutes, asking us some questions, answering some himself, and we will try to answer those as best as we know how. But just like you guys, we know we're kind of dealing with all our circumstances as it comes. It's been a good week, tiresome week, but love being able to serve you guys in this way. Well, just to kind of kick off, we're going to kind of roll through some kind of pre-thought out things from us, of just things we want to give you guys an update on, kind of in this season of, we know we've got a building coming online. We know there's dates and times and needs that are there. We know that we're in the season of the coronavirus, and that you guys have questions about how we can serve one another, where can we get information. We're going to answer some of those questions, from financials, financial situation to architects, all this stuff we're gonna ask and kind of answer for you. But continue to submit those questions, and we'll answer those as soon as we can. Well, just to kind of kick things off and give you a note of like timeline for pilot, because I know that's been a huge question. I know you guys are excited about that, as we are. We're excited about when we can get in there, what we can do, when we can do it, and all those things. But just to let you know, they've replaced the roof as of the end of last week, just in time for the shutdown of offices and coronaviruses and things like that. But the update we have on the timeline for the closing on that is just going along with, they've got the roof done. Pilot is waiting on a check from their insurance company. And as soon as they get that check in the mail and go pay off the roofers, we can contact our lawyer, and we can actually get a date set for the closing on the Pilot property. So probably, barring any crazy shutdowns with coronavirus and stay in place, anything that starts to come down just from the government, we should, by next week or the week after that, go ahead and have that closing date and have the Pilot property under the name of Emmaus. So kind of to answer any questions that you guys have as far as, do we have a day set, a time set, or slots for you guys to maybe come down there in smaller groups or as a family and maybe do some yard work or do some work days? We're working on those, but we were definitely going to have some of those as soon as that closing date happens, where you guys can get down there. We can have some prayer gatherings, or we can just in smaller groups start working on some grass, or if someone wants to have a bonfire, or someone wants to do a few different things, we're working on those. So that's kind of the timeline on that. We will definitely keep you guys updated as soon as we know anything on that. You guys are literally getting it as fast as we know it. So that's kind of the first answer on that. Did I miss anything there, guys? Anything you're thinking of just to relate the timeline? Or
No, don't think so.
Well, cool. Well, if you think of anything, right there, Jacob will ask us. Eric has some announcements here for us as it pertains to an architects and thoughts for our building coming down the pipe.
That's great. Yeah. And like you said, just leave comments in the YouTube channel if you'd like. We'll monitor that. I know some of you are also in Slack, so I'll try to keep that open here. But yeah, just a quick update. So we are doing our best to approach this as best as we can, as formally as we can. We've sent out an official formal proposal request, and we sent that out to about 5 different firms. We have also, a couple of weeks ago, we actually got to meet with several of them in person, on site, kind of walk through the building, walk through the space, and just kind of talk through and answer some of their questions. And we've also already received I think a couple of proposals that we're going to follow up on here shortly. We will also have some formal interviews with the firms moving forward. So not a ton to update you on there, other than, we're taking those first initial steps, kind of getting that out there. Let's see what else here. yeah, we'll pass things on as we get them. I think one of the questions that I'd already seen is, how can you be a part of those conversations? One of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to structure this in sort of a taking different responsibilities and bring them to the table. So just as an example, I'll be kind of overseeing the aesthetics, the look and feel and design as we move forward. So what I'd love to do is reach out to the community and get folks pulled in so we can have conversations and discussions about that. We'll kind of do that for each responsibility section that we have as we move forward. So that's a quick update on the architecture stuff. Feel free to leave questions if you have any, but I'll hand it over to Ken.
He has all the fun stuff.
I got the money part. So, but I want to add to what Eric was saying is the feedback we've gotten so far from the initial inspection on the property and then reaching out to the architects is going to take longer, than we probably hope. And we all understand that. But there are a lot of technical aspects. It's a piece of property that's like 1.5, 1.6 acres. But there's a lot of restrictions on how we can use it. And so that's why we actually need professional help to be able to evaluate exactly what is possible. Because we really don't want to do something that's short term when we really might constrain ourselves by making a bad decision for the long term. Mm-hmm. So we really do need the technical help. So on the financial side, there is a write-up that will have a link that we'll post that has basically what I'm going to talk about, but if you want to see a little more detail, most people don't like to see charts and tables and things, but there's at least one table in here, so good reading. So what I want to say is 2019 was a pretty crazy year for Emmaus overall, and that included our finances. So when Brian Fowler departed, it kind of triggered a lot of different transitions, and those things have impacted our financial planning in particular. People have been giving, we've been spending, we're doing all the good church stuff, but it's been really hard to plan. And so that's probably the point I want to make here. So I'll just give a kind of a quick summary of things that were important to the financial side. So when Brian left in April, we had to take steps to help us manage and pastor the church. The elders did. And that included giving Jacob a raise because he was actually quite underpaid. Because he actually took on a lot more responsibility, and those of you that were around and he stepped in to preach and just to do a lot of things behind the scenes. So this young man earned his money. So it was all good. We also formally created a part-time staff, a paid part-time staff. We've never had that before. We've said this in prior family meetings. But really, we needed to rely on those staff members to help us do the activities of the church, right? Those are all very important. A lot of those things are unseen because they are behind the scenes. But without it, we really would have had a hard time keeping Emmaus going. So in retrospect, we feel those were good decisions, but they did cost money. We hired Mike in October, but we carried those additional staff costs with us, right? Because we didn't suddenly go, oh, hey, we got a pastor, cool, he'll do everything. Inside, I said that, but it didn't. So, but anyway, probably the thing was that I noticed, and hopefully others appreciated, was he had a very smooth transition because he had the staff, right? He had Jacob here. So it wasn't just, the elders, it was an actual staff that knew about the operations of Emmaus. So he got the benefit from that. And so we get the benefit from that. So we felt this structure was working well. So we've actually put it into our 2020 budget, having these staff members. So we've just kind of continued that as is, but we are committed to reevaluate that in May, which would be the 1-year anniversary of putting that in place, because we really are sensitive to the cost. So that brings us to the giving situation. So the way I would put it is 2018 was a very good year. 2019 was okay. And 2020 has us in the red by $12,000 so far this year. So that's something that, we just have to be aware of. The assumption we have is that we're already seeing the impact of the announcement we made that the church will be moving to downtown Raleigh. Plus, we know, people are, definitely financially impacted by this coronavirus situation that's upon us, either through direct income loss or even just the uncertainty, right? Because sometimes that's enough to make us question, what do we do with our finances? It's okay now, but what about tomorrow? So as always, what we ask you to do is to pray about your giving and truly be as generous as you can. And that, because we're asking you to support God's work through Emmaus, and we pray He'll guide. So thankfully, we've been good stewards over the last few years. So there's actually money in the bank in the church's savings account. So there's over $100,000. You know, I share that because it's your money, right? And that will help us in the short term. But we're also taking on brand new responsibilities as property owners, and we've never been that before. So we know that's going to bring some more financial unknowns, whether we have to spend money to fix broken things. Thankfully, this roof is like $13,000 or something like that. And so church was able to do that under insurance. So that's something that we didn't have to bear. But a leaky roof is not something you can tolerate very long. So, you know, it's those kind of things that will come upon us that we just haven't had to deal with before. So either, you know, possibly fixing broken things, or just as we move forward on these renovations that are going to be needed to the pilot property to make it suitable for our use, you know, we don't know the extent of that. But the bottom line is it's all expensive. So acting in faith, we're proceeding to evaluate financing options, and with some local banks. So I've contacted 5 banks. One we couldn't do because we don't meet their criteria. Met personally with reps from 4 others, and so they're all very nice. And at least 3 of them are Christians, so they're all, you know, empathetic to the situation. And right now, I'm currently gathering kind of extensive organizational and financial data, because they all have very long questionnaires. And so basically, you fill all that stuff out. You hand it back. I hope to get that in the next couple of weeks. You give them back to these representatives we've actually met with, but they have to go to underwriters, and they'll look basically at what they think about our stability and our ability to repay. And all I can say is I've been through this before when I was administrative pastor of another small church. And so with all this, it's not a sure thing that we can get financing. So, but we're taking the steps that we know to take. But I'll say bottom line, God's in charge, and He will provide a way for us to proceed. We just need to explore the paths that are in front of us and then ask Him to guide. So that's what I have. Like I said, there'll be a link to basically that same, what I just shared, plus a little bit more specific detail.
Yeah. So I think I know a question that probably people are asking is kind of, well, what does need to be done? Well, we're still kind of reassessing what that looks like. We know for sure, you know, that yes, we know you guys are so flexible and so great that we could go downtown Raleigh, and in the 90s style, hasn't been anything done since the 80s, the dungeon basement, we could do something. We could have a worship service. We could do a service. We know we can do that. But we want to be good to our neighbors as we go down there. We want to be able to invite people and put on not some type of perfect service, but we want to just be loving and good to our neighbors. And so even pulling up carpet or even putting a new thing of paint on is going to take time. It's going to take money, and it's going to take planning. And as we move into this new season, expecting on God to be generous, expecting on God to be generous through you guys and through the people of Emmaus Church. And so we're excited. It's not just a laundry list of these fears and anxieties, even though that's very real, and it's very, it's dollars and cents. And so that feels very real, very quick, but we were trusting God together. And I know you guys are trusting God. And so just know that as we step into there, we want to do this thing well. We want to do it right. We don't want to just go into it like, when you give your car to somebody and you don't think about all the things that are wrong with it. But then, man, when you give it to them, you're like, oh, wait, let me give you this list. Like, okay, don't do this, do this. You got to jiggle this. You got to shake that. Don't press the gas too hard. We want to take over this building well, but we don't want to be those type of people when new guests come. So we're just trusting with God for every step of the way.
And I will say, because of the inspection, we actually have a list of things that are technically wrong. And so we're also cognizant of not just usability, but safety and those kind of things. So.
Yeah. And I think this has come up a lot, but questions about how can we jump in and help. There are a lot of those short list items. I think we'll be able to address those soon and get folks to help out. Of course, right now with COVID-19, it's a little tricky. But just stay tuned. We definitely want to be working on that together with y'all and be a community as part of that. I think another way that Micah put it the other day, which I appreciated, is like, we could probably go ahead and meet in the building as soon as we own it, like as a family. But it's just like, when your house isn't in order, you don't necessarily want to invite people in. You're fine with your family there, but you're not going to invite guests over. So that's part of the thing we're kind of balancing as well as we look to the immediate future of meeting there. And I know, secondly, the other thing that came to mind while Ken was speaking, I know this is a really difficult and challenging time right now, financially too, for several of you. So, asking you to step up giving, that's not lost on us as being a challenge. So we just ask that you commit that to prayer is really all we would like for you to do. Yeah.
So, one question that's already come through is that what's going on with the Art Center since we're not meeting there, and are we saving any money? Are they? And that is true. The Art Center has said that they will that we don't have to pay for these weeks that because of the shutdown, because of Governor Cooper, because of all the recommendations CDC and that our government, local government, is following, that Carytown Parks and Rec is following. So we will be recouping that cost. It might not be directly, it might just be spread out over the life of our yearly lease. But we are saving money in these weeks, so that God's already started to be gracious to us, even in those things. So we're going to want to go from here, and you might have some questions about those things, but we want to just kind of now take the next step. That was the last of our planned things to say, but we want to be able to answer your questions as best that we can. And so Jacob's just going to kind of moderate that portion of the rest of this family meeting.
So as you guys know, we posted a response to what's going on with COVID-19. And as Mike already pointed out, we are learning just as much as you are learning, and we're trying to respond as we learn more. So you might have got that email, you might have read that message, and part of that message was, how can we be serving each other as a body, but then also how can we be serving our community? So if you did see that, we want to take the next steps. Like, what would be the next step? So what are the next steps when we hear about people in need in our community and in our neighborhoods? Like, what should we do as a response to hearing about these needs?
Yeah. One of the things, we are just been all blown away. I'll say, just again, all you guys have just stepped in right away. Get on Slack, emails, text, calls. You've been asking, what can we do? You've been making needs aware. Other people have been even bringing organizations that they are a part of or know about that can help in times of needs. And that response is, man, that is just light years, and that's the things that we love. But one of the things we want to say is, if you've gotten that Emmaus, that little, if you're on the app, there's a little red ticker there that just kind of gives what we're saying and what our response is for kind of how can we serve, how can we gather, how can we give, how can we pray. That's your go-to. Those are the things that, like I said in the video earlier this week, we want to direct your attention to those things. And one of the things, there is a radio button you'll see that says share your needs with us. That's the spot. If you know of a need, again, if it's your neighbor and you can take care of it, do it. If it's someone in your community group and you know it, take care of it. But we would love to know those things. And I know you guys are posting in Slack. You guys are posting, you're texting us individually and stuff like that. This will be our response. It's a link to fill out something on Playing Center. This is not so that we can control, so we can sit up here with like black hoods on and say, yes, give to this, do this. But it's so we all know. And then we're creating a shareable document so that we can put it back in y'all's hands, and so that we can all have this kind of funnel that goes into one place of all the needs that you guys are putting out there that we know about. And that way you guys can respond, we can respond as a church. Those organizations that you guys are a part of, you can jump in, you can respond, and so that we can just all see this one list together of the needs among us, instead of a text to this person, a text to that person, a call to Micah, a call to Eric, a text to Jacob. Ken's hearing about it from this way. There's someone putting it on a CG thread. There's someone putting it on the Emmaus thread. There's someone putting it on a prayer request. If you have a response, fill this out, and it's going to go to all one place, and we'll be sharing that document with you guys shortly.
That's right. And if you open up that form, we just put it in the Emmaus Slack channel. Another reason that's the best place to go to is it also gives a privacy option. So if it's a need that you don't necessarily want the entire community to be aware of, that is an option as well.
Just click the button or click the little box.
Right.
Check the box.
So even if you guys hear about it, I mean, that's going to be our response to needs in Slack. We'll say, hey, fill this out. Hey, fill this out. Hey, fill this out. That can be you guys' response too. As you hear about things, you can just on Slack or on text, or if people ask you because you're just friends and your CG or just whatever, give them that link. Say, put this here, and we'll be getting that link out to you of probably like a Google Doc or something that will constantly being updated about the contact information, what the need is. So I look forward to that.
Yeah. So someone just asked a question. They said, with everything, what are you sensing from the Lord besides excitement? What are shared feelings or thoughts that you have right now? I guess this is kind of for all of us.
Anything?
Yeah, I mean, excitement. I don't know. Excitement is not necessarily something I've been feeling recently. I think anticipation. I was just talking to my dad, and we were just talking about how it feels like once this is all said and done, everything's going to change somehow. Like we're all going to change somehow, and we don't really know exactly in what ways. But I think one thing for me, and Mike and I have had these conversations, and so, to him, this might be just regurgitating, but one feeling we feel like is, through all this is a global phenomenon, if you want to say that. This is happening for everyone. But also God is also working on every single one of us as individuals. And so for me, it's taking that time. And Micah talked about this, well, not live, but in his sermon this morning, he talked about this is just really taking the time that we are kind of being forced into to really just listen and just really listen to what are you trying to teach me in this moment, in this time that I've been given in my house or apartment, or just with my wife, or just with my kids. Lord, what are you trying to teach me during this time? And that's something that's been really convicting for me, just learning a lot of, back when things were normal, quote unquote, a lot of bad habits that I had, a lot of just things that I was doing that wasn't productive. And now these things are just kind of coming to light. And I don't think that's oversimplifying what's going on across the world while many, many people are suffering, because, what Mike and I have been talking about is like, God can work globally and through the masses as much and at the same time as he's working through us as individuals. And so I think there's this anticipation for me of, I know I'm going to come out of this changed. I know I'm going to come out of this strengthened somehow, and it's because the Lord was working through me and with me during this time, besides myself, besides my body and my flesh, and my temptations that are with all of us during this time. So that's just me personally. I don't know if there's any shared feelings on that.
I mean, I think there's a sense where, I don't mean to be this sounds trite or glib or anything. I mean, it's not easy, but at the same time, it feels there's a sense of excitement. I like that it was maybe put that way, but there's a reality of, hey, what is God going to do? What does God have for us as he directs our attention and directs our thoughts? Even the fact that he's making us realize, wow, the goodness of gathering on the weekends and not in videos, or man, just the fact that we can't get up with our family or do the normal routine. And those, we start to take those, even going to a cubicle at work, we start to take those for granted. Or just going out to a restaurant or just going to the grocery store without having a thought, but they can be taken away like that. And so just that we can't meet in the same way just fills me with a little bit of expectation for the next time we can meet, and then we can get together and we can go down and do some work days. And so I know that's one way I'm feeling, that God's just growing something, building something. But I know even there's probably wondering, like, what are we sensing about coming downtown, coming into Raleigh? I mean, I think just there's still a great excitement. As you go down there different days, I really we would encourage you guys, go down on the property. We're looking to get out of the house and drive around. Just go down, walk around. You'll be definitely 6 feet from everyone down there. But you'll see people walking, and you'll see people to say hey to. You'll see the restaurants, and you'll start to get a vibe of the neighborhood. And I think it's just super exciting to see, even at this season that God's taken us through, that He's taken us through a sense where, all right, we have to be very serious and we have to be very purposeful, and He's slowing us down, and it's being methodical, and He's growing us, and He's planting something. And like I said in the message, I mean, I really do believe God is taking Emmaus Church into a season of hard work of maybe using our hands, but the reality of it is the hard work of patience, and the patience of a farmer, the patience of growing something. And that's what He's doing in this season. He's doing it in our church. He's doing it in our building. He's doing it all across the board. And so that fills me with excitement.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Another question, a little wordy, but in the visible space, can we document priorities from leadership? I sense the need to make the vision plain for the people in regards to finances as we all plan for our individual families, extended communities, and church. Keeping visibility to priorities from supporting community and building projects will help keep us all marching in the same direction as much as we're able.
Sorry,
reread it.
I'm not clear on that.
What I think, what I kind of think is being asked is like, can we just make everyone aware of like what the priority list is, like as we do changes, as we build projects. And I think I would answer that question as that's exactly what Eric was talking about. As we kind of work with financial institutions, we work with architecture firms, and we see what are the options, what are we limited to because of ordinances of downtown Raleigh, historic districts of Mordecai, of all these things. We might have God might release all the funds to do anything we want, but we can only do so much because of downtown Raleigh. And so it's like, that's one end of the spectrum. And from going like just getting in there and doing paint, that's going to help us reorder our list as we hear like what all our options are from these financially and from architect firms. So if I'm answering that question as I think it's that, yes, that list will be coming, but it's going to have to be kind of subjective to some of the stuff that we're working on.
And they added like mainly the finances, the financially, like what are the priorities?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this. We're still obviously very early on in this process, but we will most likely have some type of building campaign of some sorts. I don't know. We're not going to necessarily put the thermometer up on the wall or whatever. But yeah, I mean, again, we're probably going to have to say this a little bit during this call, but it's going to be one of those stay tuned moments again. We definitely want to be clear on that as we move forward, though.
Yeah. So the easy part is we can easily add a building fund to our giving, right? That's that part's easy, but actually coordinating and saying here's how we would use the money, because honestly at this instant of time we actually don't even know how much money we need. I mean it's just that simple because we don't all these constraints. That's why we have to deal with the professionals. I had to take a wild guess just because you had to give the people we're reaching out to some idea of the magnitude, right? But it truly was just going, here's what might be possible. So, I don't like operating that way, but it's kind of, it is taking that step, knowing that we will be iterative, right? We're not planning out every last thing. And probably what will happen is phases.
A derivative of iteration.
Iteration.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Word of the day.
That's right.
I like good words.
You like that good word? Engineer word. That's right. So we iterate on things. We're agile. Right. That's right. So anyway, I forgive me. But the point is that we're not locking it in stone. Is we actually expect to be able to talk to professionals, get some idea of what's possible, have this committee of people that will reach out and get good input from those that feel like that they have some clear idea of what they think would be valuable. evaluate all those things together, mix it in with what's possible financially, everything. But I expect there'll be several phases of this project. So nothing, we don't have to be locked in, but we would service everyone if we actually be able to lay out a plan, right? And then make changes if we need to. Right. So anyway, but as far as the money side, we'll actually have a building fund, and we will communicate at that time, once we have a better idea of the cost, right? And then the financing part is just something it's a long process. So that's why we're starting. It looks like it may be like you're going too early, Ken. You really should, you should do the fundraising internally first, but it's a long process. So we wanted to get it started in parallel so that we can, especially if we hit bumps in the road, we may have to go, well, we can't do that. We'll have to back up and look at, some other alternatives.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think one of the things is we're not by any means going to bite off some giant chunk and ask for you guys to now then just get on board or get out. We're working hard on the front end. These guys are working super hard on some of their giftings. So then you guys can be called in and work through some of your giftings, so we can present you guys with an actual good picture of what it will look like. And even to go on that route, we've already been talking about is a little bit of our priority list. So that might be answering as a question. I know that we've been already talking with James, and we were talking about, okay, we know we would bare minimum, we would need this to soundboards and mics and equipment. We know we want to get probably rid of maybe even the pews and start putting chairs. And so if we just walked in, we know that taking care of our kids' space is going to be a huge priority, a number one. And so I know immediately some of those, so we're working with Kyle and Hannah. So I know immediately so that those things will become on that list, if that's what the list we're talking about, be able to get in and worship together, to be able to have our kids be comfortable and taken care of well, not in a dark hole, dungeon looking basement. And so that's what we want to do. So those are the priorities, not to just be bright, shiny, and be perfect necessarily, but we got to work on the plans. And when we have this internal list. And so if you're on a worship team, if you're involved with kids ministry, be talking to James, be talking to Kyle and Hannah. We know all the staff who are not sitting here with us, they're thinking through these things with us too. Be talking to them if you are in one of those ministry environments, so that we can then, because we're talking to them, we're working through these things and making those list of priorities to then present to all you guys. Yeah,
and I would say as part of this process, one of the financial groups that I met with also has their own basically builder consultant. So he's a professional. And so he came in and he walked through, and it was interesting. His commentary really was directed with the kids, right? Saying, if you walk in, we want to invite a lot of people in. If you walk in, you could, the adults could kind of do many things, but no one's going to release their child to go someplace they don't feel is safe and accessible. That's just the way it is. So if we want to be inviting, especially in our new neighborhood, to our surprise, we met. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. A friend of mine works at the Mordecai House, and so that's a historic society, museum area. Just right around the corner. So we spent an hour or so with her, the elders, and talking through, what does she know about the neighborhood? So besides the historical aspects, one thing she shared was in that neighborhood, there's a lot of families with young children. So I had expected dual income, no kids, right? I expected young professionals, dinks, right? So, but she said, no, it's
Jacob and Jen.
Jacob and yes, it's J&J, right?
Or dinkers.
So, yes. But the point was, I was actually surprised to find out. She says, no, there's lots and lots of young kids. And sure enough, if we go out, just because we're walking over there, we're going to the building fairly often, the three of us. And so people, they're out there in their strollers, right? They're walking the kids up and down the street and everything. So if we're going to invite our neighbors in, they're going to have kids, right? And we have to be really cognizant of how we handle that. And so I thought it was just interesting. The disinterested party was pointing out, that's probably one of your top things.
Yeah.
The next two questions are more directed towards individuals. The first one is, how can we as Christians best spread the gospel to our communities during this time, especially when we are doing our best to avoid contact with people?
Yeah, historically, this is where that rub comes in, because we have to be wise and we have to be love well by distancing, but we want to jump in. Sorry, I almost dropped my phone there. and I think historically the church has always gone towards, and so we're still in that, and would still be a lot of our encouragement. And I think one of the things that we talked about this week, I've been talking to a few people about this, is we don't want to be unwise in that though. And so just to go because you feel like you need to be near people, and you're a 7 on the Enneagram, or you're just an extrovert, and you're sick of being in your house with your kids or with your wife or with your husband, or you're single and you just got to be with someone to be with them. So you're heading out to the, restaurant, you're heading out to the wherever. I think we need to be calculated in that, because we want to be able to leave our homes to actually go address serious needs and serious sicknesses and serious people. And I know for me, that's one of the things I think about as a pastor of you guys. I think, well, how can I be wise in my day-to-day so that when real need comes, I can go address it. I can go be there with the love of Jesus and then give a reason for the hope that we have. It's not just, I just got to be with people. I'm made to be with people. That's my gift. That's who I am. Well, maybe God's saying, slow down, stay still, tend the garden, tend your soil, and be ready to be like the historical church and to actually move towards the sick people as a well person, but with the love of Jesus, purposefully planned and with full repertoire of funds at your grasp and the love of Jesus and the hope you have. So that would be my answer. You guys can add to that.
I would say this is something I've been trying to do, is because we can't come in contact with people all the time. I've just been trying to call people on the phone. Super easy to do, super simple, and just talking to people with no agenda other than just, how are you doing? What's new? How are you feeling? And doing that with family members. I've been trying to call, cousins that I haven't talked to in a long time, just people throughout my normal life, normal schedule, it doesn't cross my mind a lot of times, how's this person doing? How's that person doing? But now it's an opportunity for me to talk to some of these people not in person, on the phone, hear their voice, and just let them know, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying about you, I love you. And, doing that amongst each other. I've been trying to do that with people in my community group and just even people that don't go to Emmaus anymore, and just calling them up, seeing how they're doing, seeing how their families are doing, just people that I know and care about. And so it's not necessarily spreading the gospel, but it's definitely showing the love of Jesus to people during this time, just letting them know, I care about you, I'm thinking about you. Feel free to drop me a line anytime you want for any reason. So that's just something I've been challenged and been trying to do during this time. So the next question, again, more directed towards the individuals. We've talked a little bit about this as a church body as well, but as individuals, this is important. But it's with small businesses struggling, especially restaurants, coffee shops. As we as a church body can we as a church body intentionally support for a week one of the businesses integral to our community? So if in that update that we sent out about how to serve, we mentioned small businesses. We use Yellow Dog as an example just because Zoe works there. We've had a number of people at Emmaus work there. So that is a small business that is near and dear to our hearts, near and dear to my heart. So we've been in contact with them and asked them, what can we do for you as a church and then as individuals? And, what essentially they say is they say, come, get our product. If you need bread, come to us, come, support us that way. But also a lot of these small businesses, I've noticed, they are also trying to give back to the community, trying to help the community. And Yellow Dog is doing that. But they are using their own resources and their own time and money to help people that are in need. And so they're going above and beyond for the community. And so really it's just kind of supporting the people that are trying to support the community. And so I would say, and you jump in on this, this is just speaking for myself, I would say just really ask these businesses, ask Brew, ask Stick Boy, ask Yellow Dog, ask these businesses, how can I, as an individual, for starters, how can I help you guys? What is their need for you? And then as a church, we have been specifically talking to Matt and Tanya at Yellow Dog and trying to work out what that will look like. But that is, as an individual level, that is a very simple way that you can support these small businesses. And I don't know if there's anything else you guys have to add about
and it'll be it's a work in progress for us too. I mean, just like you guys are asking these questions, we're asking these questions of us and of the whole church. And Jacob and I will be working this week to use some of our time to be able to, whether things we can lean into to support our community, our downtown Raleigh or Cary, and again, bring those needs together with you guys. But yeah, I mean, that document that Jacob's referring to, that's the ways that we want to be directing our attention as a church in this time. Again, I know a million things are going to come about that you guys might know and need and might need to know. Again, please fill out the link if you know the need. We also have, I know, like Brian Gower and his cohorts of with Common Change, they're ready. They're standing ready to meet some needs of you guys who are maybe been out of work and they've been are underemployed in this season and need direct hands. So again, fill that out, and we'll be getting that into their hands and as well as our hands at Emmaus Church. And it's just all working together to any need that comes up. Fill out that planning center link. That's how we're doing it. So I can't reiterate that enough. And we'll be working. You guys are working, and it's a work in progress.
So that's on Slack. That's all the questions. There,
you gonna say something?
Well, this is coming from an individual, but directly to me, and I'll just ask this question too. But what can we talk about Common Change and talk about what Gower and Michael and that CG are doing and how they have those funds and what possibilities there are with Common Change?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what one of the things that I felt like it was addressed a little bit in that last thing of just like they're ready and standing there, ready to work, and if people want to get involved with that. But that's I mean, we're all they're functioning as a part of Emmaus Church, it's almost like another like subgroup of individuals ready to take care of those needs on that list. So. By all means, we can do those things, but I think that's the best way is for us all to not start being horses tethered to like running in opposite directions, but be working together. And the best way to do that is just working together through that list. Again, we're not the shopkeepers. Emmaus Church is not the gatekeepers on what you guys can do in your communities to your neighbors.
Right.
We just want to know about it, so we can all gather around those things and support one another.
Yeah, so we can partner.
Right. I mean, the church is the hope of the world. The church is it's what God is doing. So in as much as that it's a part of the church, then that's what's happening, and that's what God's doing. And Emmaus, we get to be a part of that, that big C overarching church. And so that is the hope of the world. And so we want to be a people, part of that, moving towards partnering with one another. Did I feel like I answered that question?
Yeah, for sure. Do
you want to talk about the prayer thing?
Oh, I know there's probably some ways that you guys, I know, have priority doing it with CGs or things like that. I know we've been tossing around different ways that we can utilize Google Hangouts or use Zoom calls as a church. And so I would look for, we want to be a people of prayer. I know it says, again, in that Emmaus Church and coronavirus, kind of like where we're standing, where we're directing our attention, and how can we be praying in this time. One of the things that's said is not only just daily prayers for us as individuals, but gathered? How can we gather to pray? I know that one of the ways we can probably do that in the days ahead is maybe have a Zoom gathering, have a Google Hangout where you guys can come in for a few minutes, and then we can just kind of see one another's faces, and we can hear one another's voices, because we know that's needed in this time. So kind of a Google Hangout of prayer gathering, or prayer wall. I know that's our language, so maybe we'll call it the Emmaus prayer wall in this season, and you guys we'll send that out and give you guys a time where that's going to become a weekly, regular time and thing, or a few times, or just as we see fit. We definitely want to do that, and so you guys can look forward to those, and we'll let you know as soon as we organize one of those where you can join and participate. So,
yeah, this is definitely a new season. We're having to lean a little bit more into technology than is typical for our particular community. So Grace, as we, kind of get started on some of these things, I'm really excited that this is actually working out. We've got several people watching, which is great. We want to do more of this kind of thing to stay connected as best as we can. So I know there was a question about, can we do another song and prayer? Absolutely. We want to do something like that. We've been talking to James a little bit about what that might look like. So we'll hopefully start being able to take some of those postponed banners off of our announcements and start giving you some new options for those things. So as that develops, and as we will need volunteers and help for that, we'll definitely want to reach out to you guys and work with you on that.
Yeah, I think that's, as far as the actuality, we're with you all, you guys. It's we've canceled gathering the physical indefinitely. Just to be very clear about that. That's right now, we're going to be figuring out how to do Easter digitally. And so we all just need to be ready for that. We want, even if we want to create something big, like a song and prayer, or a big gathering, or maybe a live stream or something like that, we're thinking, like, how can we best leverage and utilize even Easter coming, and the opportunity that presents us as a church to express the love of Jesus and invite neighbors to that and things like that. So we're thinking through all of those things. We're talking with the other staff, like he's mentioning, James. We're all working on those things. So just be ready for those to come about. But at the same time, just don't want you guys to feel uninformed, like, what's going to happen for this? What's going to happen? We're letting you guys know as soon as we know anything. And we want to, if we have to consolidate resources for this, for this, we want to put all our eggs in various baskets to make it as good as we can for planned out specific things. So we're working on all those things.
Trying to build up some capability, right?
Yeah, we're figuring it out. We're figuring out what it would look like, how it would work. All of you, especially these guys, they can work from home. So God's blessed them with that ability, but they still have to work, and they still have their own families. And just like you guys, we're all, and me and Jacob are working on these things. We're all just in this together and taking it a day at a time, a week at a time. And so be open, be flexible to even some of our liturgies or worship or the flow of the app, all those things. We're just all working on it together and doing it working on it as hard as we can to make it the best case scenario for you guys and for our family, and to actually have something to give and offer and still gather together and commune. So I know that people have asked, how can you pray for us? And how can we pray for, like, us and staff and things like that? And I think that's one of the main ways that you can pray, that God would just grant us wisdom, not like secrets from everyone else, but that we would literally be able to use our time well, and that he would show us the things that we need to be shown and lead us to things. And because it's, as you guys have probably seen, there's an overwhelming of things we could do that might not serve the Emmaus community well, or might not serve Raleigh well, or your neighbors well. We want to be in tune to those things that would serve our people well, and we need wisdom for those things, and we need the encouragement, and and I know just like you guys do. And so be praying. These guys right here, Eric has worked invaluable hours this week just to make a bunch of these things happen. And so just for strength, so wisdom, strength, and I know you guys all need that same thing. So the same things you're praying for yourself and your family and you and your job, we all need those. And I think that's actually one of the coolest things about this whole thing. People were asking, what are we feeling? I'm excited because God's doing something, and it doesn't look like anything he's ever done in our day. And it's given us opportunity to lean in, and we're all really connected well. I mean, for such a time as this, digitally, we're all in this together. There's not one person who's immune or exempt in this season. So as you feel fear, someone else is feeling fear. As you feel anxiety, someone else in this community or in your neighborhood is feeling anxiety. As you feel crunched or you feel fearful about your finances, someone else is feeling fearful or crunched. So pray for that person, reach out to that person. And I think that's exactly what God is doing in this season, as he kind of puts these new little plants in the ground, and he's tilling up some soil, and things are bubbling up from the underneath, and he's doing something here, and I'm just excited about that. So I need your prayers and any ways that we can serve, and I know these guys do. So that's my last little bit of a plug, if you will, for prayer. And I guess if there's anything else, I can pray.
Any other questions?
There's another question, and there's several people typing. I don't know. Is there a time frame that should we give people like last bit of questions, or are we just gonna?
Yeah, let's answer just a couple more.
Okay, cool. How can we be thinking outside of the box for Easter? Open field gatherings, families bring their own picnic, maybe only smaller regional CGs. Would love to find a way to put faith over fear to celebrate Jesus on that day and believe we can do it without compromising safety. So out of the box.
That's right. I mean, I think we really want to be thinking about that. I think one of the hardest things about this right now is the requirements are changing daily, almost even hourly. So it really is challenging right now to know what would be feasible. Things are, as we're trying to be really mindful and careful with just health and taking this whole distance thing seriously. I think we'll have to kind of see as time progresses. I'm definitely open to brainstorming and coming up with some creative ideas. I love that idea. I think that's great. But that's just me kind of.
Well, I think we would lean into whatever's possible.
Right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. We don't want to just.
We have a desire
isolate for isolation's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak directly to the fact that we will not act in defiance as a corporate body of what our authorities in the government are saying in regards to just not meeting. I mean, if they're telling us to do things contrary to our beliefs and contrary to our scriptures, of course we would be wise. But the reality of it is, if it's loving to our community not to gather just for gathering's sake, I can guarantee we will not meet just to meet sake, because this is the goal is neighbor love. The goal is getting through this and over this and getting this sickness gone. We won't succumb to the fear of media. We're not succumbing to any fear of media that media is building up. We're actually responding and not being fearful by meeting or by not meeting. So that's our goal. And we're thinking outside the box. We're giving all these ideas. I love the ideas. Keep them coming. Keep suggesting. But I can tell you, we're listening, and we're going to be wise according to what is being suggested to us, so that we can demonstrate with all those around us that we actually care about this. We're not just heading to the beach. We're not just heading to the restaurant. We're not going on spring break. We're not just going to all these things that you see on the news. We actually want to demonstrate that we fear God. And so because we fear God, we can love man. So that's definitely, we can say that without any regard for what might be ahead. God knows. Mm-hmm. He's not surprised by this. Mm-hmm. He's not like, oh gosh, you guys won't have an Easter service maybe in person. He's not fretting. Mm-hmm. And so we are responding to him, not to fear.
It's a question / just thought, but it's, how about some type of organized door delivery system or handwritten notes, lilies, songs, speaking through the glass door, etc. I think to what you just said, it's, we want to be wise. And so I don't know if the people at Emmaus that be in the high risk zone, it may just be best to really just, leave those people be, just unless they ask, unless there's permission. But I think we need to just, talk to your CGs, and if you guys want to start communicating, giving each other gifts. I mean, Jen and I, we dropped off some Yellow Dog pastries at Ben and Paige Anderson's house because they both work in the hospitals. And so they're super, super busy, and we just kind of wanted to like let them know that we appreciate what they're doing and are thinking about them and praying for them. And so we did something like that. But there are also people that are not in the high risk zone. And so if they were in, they had a compromised immune systems, or if they were, 60 years or older, we probably wouldn't do that, just because we want to be wise and we don't want to take any risks, unnecessary risks. So again, to what Michael was saying, like love each other in that way, in those ways, love each other, love your neighbors, but also be wise and make sure, we don't want to do anything like that. And it might compromise someone, unintentionally, obviously, because we can have the purest intentions, but spread this disease. And so we just want to make sure we don't do stuff like that. But I think again, they're great ideas. And we want to start thinking outside the box when it comes to loving each other.
Yeah. And if there's particulars, I mean, that still can go into that posting into the Google Doc, right? If you knew somebody really could use a visit,
right,
and and you can't do it yourself, I mean, I think you can put it in there, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think just so you guys are fully aware, we have, as a staff and elders, we're compiling a list of like who are 60 and plus, who are medical workers, who are those people who are dependent on hourly employment and are being fiscally challenged in this moment. And so that we can know, we can be praying, we can be saying, go to those. So the same is true for you guys. Like make that list in your home of the people that you know. And then for sure, if you feel led to do that, but again, be wise. Don't just go because you're tired of sitting in your home and watching Netflix. Do it. Save the resources and the time for when there's an actual need. And again, even in the community, if there's food shelters and people who aren't getting fed, we're looking for those opportunities. Use the document and that Plain Center registration to tell us about those things. Like the food shuttle needs 10 people to go deliver meals. Well, by all means, let's reserve all our resources on our health for stepping into those places, not for just being stir crazy. Mm-hmm. And I can't say those things strong enough. Like we want to be a people who are ready to go and move towards, yes, out of not fear, but out of faith. And so let's just be super wise and making sure we're all on the same page on those things. So fill out that link so that we can all know. And then if someone wants to just jump on something, you can go jump on it. And that's exactly how we want this to go. So good questions.
Yeah. All right. I saw a couple people were typing.
I think some are responding to some of the other.
Oh, okay.
I'm noticing there's some replies here. Yeah.
So that's it for questions right now. Should we?
Yeah.
This is good. I love this. This doesn't have to. It doesn't have to end here. We can have some other times like these. I mean, we don't know how long this is going to last. Obviously, I think there's a measure where this has been helpful for us. I know, helpful for me. Where we can now see, hey, look, we got this. We did it. For the first time, we did this thing. And that's kind of where we are. A lot of us.
Yes.
Yes. Yay, Emmaus Church. So, look, we can gather in this way. Look. That meeting could have been an email. Look at that. That's what we all want to know. We love you guys, and we're going to be concluding this time. Let me pray for us all, and we'll see you guys later. So, Lord Jesus, we love you, and you've given us to one another as your church body, and you have promised the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And so we sit here today as men and women who are confident that this is what you're doing, that nothing will be, your plans and your purposes will not be thwarted. Why? Because you're not surprised by this. You know, you are the sovereign God who is in full control of any and everything in creation. Psalm 104, we just pray that over our community. You know every virus. You know every person. You made them. As Jacob was saying earlier, you can deal with us corporately as the world, and you can deal with us intimately as Micah or as Jacob or as my family or his family. And you can sit there and you're that intimate. You know everything and you're controlling it all. And so we lend ourselves to the God of power and sovereignty, and you know, and you heal and you love. And so in this season, God, over this community, that's what we're speaking, and that you would stir us and you would show us and you would help us be wise, and you would give us humility, and you would give us patience with one another, and you would help us love one another in this body, because that's, Jesus, what you said is how the world will know that you're in us, is the way that we love and support one another, and then that we're ready to give the answer for that hope that we have and the love that we have for one another. So God, raise us up and quote unquote send us out for this season. But may in that sending, we pray that it would be wise and it would be for your purposes, not for our own. And so keep us still, keep us calm, keep us quiet, so that we can discern that voice of whether it's for me that I'm doing something or whether it's for your kingdom and your purposes. So God, we pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
We love you guys, and we look forward to any and every.
There you go.
Here we go.
Blessings. That was a lot.
We love you.
Yep. Thank you, guys. So glad you're able to join. See you guys next time.